Hey friends, welcome to Flight Test Tech. I'm Josh. Today we're going to be showing you how to build and fly the FT Easy Pegasus. Now this FT Easy Pegasus is part of our 3-pack called the FT Easy Fantasy Pack. These 3 fantasy flyers are easy to build, easy to fly, and a very rewarding experience in the air. And if you want to be able to fly all 3 of these different airplanes, make sure you check out our FT Easy Fantasy Pack Starter Bundle. This not only gives you electronics for all 3 of your airplanes, including a transmitter, 3 batteries, and 1 charger, but also gives you the added bonus of lights for each of these aircraft. If you're ready to build along with me, let's get our materials in order and we'll get started. So the first step, like all of our easy kits, is to pop out the pieces. We'll identify them and then we'll start building. So now that we have all the pieces popped out, let's go ahead and identify them and then we'll start building. First we have our main wing. Next we have our dihedral gauge for the wing. Then we have the main body of our Pegasus, our 2 side doublers, the back piece of our main body, our 2 rear legs, and then finally the tail that we're going to peel to make a nice wiggly tail in the air. Feel free to pause the video if you need and make sure that all your pieces are located and look just like what you see here. Now that everything is popped out, let's go ahead and put all of our pieces aside except for our main wing and our dihedral gauge. To give this plane the proper amount of dihedral, we're going to clip the dihedral gauge on the furthest portion out of the wing right here. I'm also going to kind of pre-crush this just a little bit so it easily can lay flat on the table without this pushing down too hard. Once we're happy with that, we can open it up, and I put a nice healthy bead of glue right on the very top here, and then I'll bring it down to the table, holding one side flat up against the table, and the other side is going to be lifted by our dihedral gauge. Give this about a minute to a minute and a half to fully dry, and we'll move on to the next step. You're going to notice when the glue is fully dried, we can remove the dihedral gauge and the wing's not going to settle down. At this point, we're ready to glue it onto the horse's body. Our wing is going to sit down directly over top of the Pegasus and the notch that's been cut out. We're going to want to make sure that the Pegasus body is vertical and that both wings are even on both sides. Once we're happy with that, we can place a healthy bead of glue right on the main section, and then we're going to bring the wing back onto the body, and just like we did before, as we press down, we're going to make sure that the horse is vertical and that the wings are even on both sides. Give this plenty of time to fully dry, and then we can glue the back portion on of the horse's body. We always like to do a test fit before we glue anything on, and that looks wonderful. Our next step is to install the 2 front nose doublers. We're always going to do a quick test fit. We're going to make sure that the front of the Pegasus face, the lower part of his neck, is all lined up. Keep in mind that the legs and other portions of his body are not going to line up directly with the body to give it an extra scale detail. Again, we're making sure the battery slot, the lower portion of the neck, and the face are all flush. Same process on the other side. We're going to line it up, make sure the face and the lower portion of the neck are flush, along with the battery slot. Once we're happy with the fit, we apply some glue and then glue it down. Our next step is to peel the paper off of both sides of our Pegasus tail. This can simply be done by grabbing the edge and lightly pulling it up. To take away some of the curl of the tail so it doesn't cause too much drag as it's going through the air, I just simply go to the edge of the table, I hold my hand flat over the tail, and then I pull it down. I can go back a couple different times, changing my pressure, and ultimately it'll make a nice wiggly tail. Now that we have both sides of our tail ready, we're going to go back about 2 inches from the edge, and I'm going to line up the whole entire tail, go back 2 inches, and then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to put a thin bead of glue right on the portion of the tail and then pinch it shut. This is going to help our tail line up with each other, and as it goes through the air, it'll flap but also look really nice. On the rear of the Pegasus, you're going to notice some etch lines, and this is going to be the portion that we want to glue our tail on. I always like to do a quick test fit, make sure that we're happy with it, and the first side that I'm going to glue on is going to be the side with the etch mark. Put a little bit of hot glue. One thing to be careful with is hot glue will transfer its heat through the paper quicker than the foam. So make sure that your glue setting is not too high, or let the glue cool a little bit before you push on it. Same process on the other side. Just going to put a little bit of glue down. I'm going to hold the tail straight away, And I'm going to press it in place. Now that we have our tail on, let's go ahead and put on the rear legs. Now with the etch marks facing outward, we're going to line up the rear horse's legs with the etch marks that you see here. You're going to notice that the rear of the legs kind of arch along the horse's back, and that this front portion lines up with the etch marks. Once you're happy with the position, we'll put some glue over the etch marks, and then we'll glue it in place. Once that's dry, we're going to flip it over to the other side. And this time we're going to line up the rear leg with the leg that we just glued on. Again, we're going to make sure that the back side of the legs line up with the back of the horse. All right, our main Pegasus airframe is now done. Our next step is to prepare and install our electronics. Let's go ahead and do that now. Now the main components that we have here is going to be our right motor, which is blue, our left motor, which is red, our prop, which has a tiny little B on it, that's going to go with the blue motor, and our prop with an A on it, that's going to go with the red motor. We're also going to have our flight control board, and you're going to notice that we have a red connector and a white connector. Those two connectors coincide with the colored connectors for our red and our blue motor. You'll notice that the red motor has a red connector and the blue motor has a white connector. We want to always make sure that we plug those motors in the proper spots to get the right flight characteristics. Let's go ahead and first install our props on the motor. Now because the Pegasus is tractor style, meaning the motors pull it through the air versus a pusher style where the motors push it through the air, we're going to take our B prop, and with the curved edge facing towards the motor, we're going to use the edge of the table and press it into place. We want to use the table to support the rear of the motor as we press this down so we don't damage the motor. I'm just going to find the center portion here. It's a tiny little hole. And we'll press that into place. Trying to push the motor together and the prop together in midair has a good chance of bending your prop shaft, which is going to cause horrible harmonics and also damaging the back of your motor and destroying it. Always use the edge of the table when putting on your props. That's one motor down. Again, we're going to locate our A prop, which is right here, and we're going to take our curved edge, face it towards the motor, take it down to the table, support the rear can of the motor, and with very gentle pressure, press it into place. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like to make sure that your motors look exactly like what you see here. We have our B prop with our blue motor, our A prop with our red motor, and both curved surfaces of the prop are facing towards the motor. If you're building a pusher configuration, the props would be in a different orientation. Now for the orientation of both the motors, we're going to be looking at the aircraft as if we're flying on it or riding on it, in this case with the Pegasus. In other cases, this is our right side and this is our left side. So let's go ahead and take our right motor, put it on the right side, our left motor, put it on the left side. Once we have that done, we can simply pick up our Pegasus. I'm going to do a quick test fit to make sure everything fits into place on the bottom of the wing. And then I can apply a bead of glue on both sides and then press it down. You're going to notice that the motor fits flat up against the leading edge on the flat spot, and the little hooks kind of hook around and grab into the foam. I'm just going to go ahead and pass my wire lead through to the left side. There we go. And we're going to do the same process now on the right side. Always make sure we test fit it. There we go. Once we're happy with that, a bead of glue on both sides. And then we're going to press it in place. Now it's very important with our flight control board that we mount it with the battery lead pointing towards the front of the nose of the horse, and also that the antenna and the switch are pointing downwards. You're going to notice two etch lines on the Pegasus, and that's going to be the side and the location that we want to glue this down. Before we glue this down, it's easiest to be able to pass the wire lead from the other side through. Just gives us a little bit easier access to the access hole, just like that. And now I can take 2 drops of hot glue and I can rotate it up in place. Now that our flight controller is installed, let's go ahead and install our right motor into the white connector that's right next to the red connector. There's one. And then we'll take our red connector. I'm going to pull this little label away a little bit. and we're going to press it into place. Always make sure that your wires and your pins line up with the connector and that you're not having to force it. Now would be a really good time to be able to dress the wires. One thing I like to do is put a little drop of glue on the left and right tag, and I can glue those right down on top of the wing, and I can glue those to the wing. That works really good for dressing my wires up and keeping them tight. We also include little strips of clear tape in our Easy Power Pack that you can use as well to dress the wires. In our FT Easy Fantasy Pack starter bundle, we do include extra lights for all three of these different designs, the Pegasus, the Phoenix, and also the Dragon. Those two wires are going to fasten into the top leads that you see right here. I would recommend, though, painting and decorating your Pegasus before installing those lights. At this point, our Pegasus is now complete and ready to fly. Let's go ahead and install the battery, check the center of gravity, and cycle the controls. Now that we have our electronics on, our last step here is that we're going to angle a little bit of reflex in both the wings of our Pegasus. Included in our Easy Power Pack are those clear strips of tape. What we want to do here is when we hold this down, we're going to raise this up about one layer of foam, just like what you see here. You can adjust this lift based on the flight characteristics that you want, but basically just lifting it up about one layer of foam on the very tip is all you need. Once we've lifted this up, just ever so slightly, we're going to take our clear tape and lock that into position. Do the same process on the other side. We're going to make sure that both sides are lifted up the same amount. And anytime you have to make adjustments, make sure that you make them both evenly on the left and the right side of the wings. Angle that up again. And there we go. It's easiest to sight right across both wings and see that both of them are nice and even. At this point, our airframe is now done. We are ready to install the battery, check our center of gravity, and cycle the controls. Now, on all of our easy designs, the battery is actually what helps the plane balance. If you move it forward, it makes it more nose heavy. If you move it backwards, it makes it more tail heavy. I'm going to go ahead and put this right in the middle. And as long as we didn't add too much weight in either paint or decorations, you should see right there that it mounts perfectly with it right in the middle. If you want to change the flight characteristics, you can experiment with moving it backwards and forwards. Now that we have our battery installed and our center of gravity checked, we're going to go ahead and plug in our battery to our control board. Make sure that your red and your black leads line up with each other. And with a little rocking motion, they should pop right into place. Once we plugged in our battery, we want to always make sure and confirm that our positive and negatives line up. We're going to go and power on our Pegasus, and you're going to notice a rapid flashing light. When we take our FT Easy controller and make sure our throttle is down and we press the button, you're going to notice that the transmitter controlling light is flashing rapidly, and also that the main control board light is now slowed down. When we move to full throttle and then back down, you're going to notice that both the transmitter and the flight controller lights go solid. At this point, we can pick up our Pegasus. We're going to go to half throttle. We should hear a thrust on both sides of the motor, and we do. And also, when we move our battery, when we move one wing back, we should feel that thrust increase to try to bring it back to neutral. If for any reason that you move this and it actually increases the thrust on the opposite side and wants to spin around, either your motors or your flight control board are mounted improperly. At this point, our Pegasus is ready to take out for its very first flight. Let's see you on the field. So we're out in the field here. The weather is beautiful. We're going to go ahead and put the FT Easy Pegasus up for its first flight. One thing I want to strongly recommend is make sure that you press that right button, put it in high rate. In other words, make sure it's flashing for you. If you have a big open area you want to try low rate later, that's absolutely fine. When we fly this, we're going to launch it with about 2/3 throttle. Full throttle will make it climb steep, and descending will be under half throttle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and point it towards the wind. And look at that, stable as can be. We'll turn away from those power lines there. You're going to see that anytime you're at half throttle, the Pegasus is going to fly just about level here, maybe climbing or diving ever so slightly. And all we need to do is turn it to the left or the right to be able to guide it. Full throttle is going to put it into a climb. And when you go below half throttle, you'll descend. One thing I'd recommend with any of these airplanes that are kind of tailless and more visual than functional is never go close throttle or the plane will spiral. This does give you some pretty cool abilities, do some pretty neat maneuvers in the air, but do that after you get used to it. Now when it comes to landing, we're just going to line up towards us and catch it. Friends, I want to thank you for being part of the Flight Test family. Thank you for taking the time to build and fly along with us. Also, whether you're in the classroom or with your friends and family, the FT Easy series is a fantastic way to learn and grow in the hobby. Huge shout out to our good friends Ben and Natalie Harbor, and also check out the amazing skins and decorations that our friend Ron Smith has designed that you can download, print, and put on these aircraft. Can't wait to build with you again, and we'll see you next time.